Hi there, back again with another important Noah Presgrove focused video. Right now we're going to be taking a look and doing a comparison between Caleb Newton's point of view text conversation screenshot with Jack Newton on the day relevant to the case and Noah's death unfolding or coming out with time, and comparing that with Caleb Newton's official statement as well, what we saw on Facebook. Because in terms of certain timestamps, they just don't quite add up and key details are clearly lacking. Now, I'm kind of doing this video because I did notice and see that there was an individual on Noah Presgrove's Army Facebook page doing like a paragraph. I think they might have been complaining, they might have been in a bit of a mood, bit of an attitude, but they did make one fair point about how when it came to Jack Newton supposedly sleeping in, that it wasn't mentioned within the text conversation, it was mentioned elsewhere. And that appears to be true. And I just want to demonstrate that today visually so you see it for yourself. And I have made references to the oversleeping within my videos and analysis. And whilst it may come from different areas or different sources, it's about trying to piece it all together. Of course, that's the whole point of a timeline. That's the whole point of trying to understand the story and how it unfolded. You're going to hear some information here and some from over there. You're going to try and connect it together to see if it makes sense, if it's in the correct order. And of course, if it just so happens to clash at the same exact time, there are moments where only one of the two things could have occurred, especially if it involves the same individuals, but different stories about those said same individuals. Hopefully that's clear enough. So that's what we're doing. Now, just before we go any further, if you are interested in these focused, important, shorter videos, I did make one earlier to do with Caden Pressey and Noah Presgrove reaching out for a lift. You can see it for yourself as proof. And as well, the strange factors of why couldn't Noah explain himself to Caden as for why he wanted to go back home. That was unknown. You want to catch up on that? Well, top right corner, you see the eye symbol, click on that. You'll also find a playlist of all my videos on the case, but you'll also find the individual link to the video I did earlier on. Make sure to catch up on it. So with that being said and done, let's get straight into this and I'll show you what I mean in terms of the text. As you can see on screen, this is Facebook Messenger, and you see the date as well, which I've highlighted with the red arrow. I don't know if you want me to zoom in, it should be clear enough to see as it stands. As for the layout of this does appear to be from the point of view of Caleb Newton, considering on the right hand side in blue would be the person, I guess, taking the screenshot, which would be Caleb. Then on the left hand side, highlighted in that grey dull colour, that would be Jack Newton, as like how it's highlighted at the top of the screen at the centre where it says Jack. This is a DM between Jack Newton and his father Caleb Newton, and it occurred Monday, September 4th at 5:53 a.m. Is there any significance with that time? Yeah, it just so happened that besides 5:53 and wanting to go on a fishing trip, that elsewhere, further north up the highway, that's when the truck driver known as Tyler Hardy reported into police highway patrol about finding a body, that body being Noah Presgrove. Is it just a coincidence that these things happen at the same exact time, right? The same exact time. We're not talking 5, 52, 51, 55, 56, but 53, the same exact time as when both things occurred. Would that mean that when Jack was texting this, was he at the party house or was he closer to the highway, I wonder? Maybe it is just an unfortunate coincidence, but you can't help but think, right? Now, whilst Tyler Hardy, there's things going on there, we need to look at that because there's unfinished business, of course. Maybe I'll try and get that for later or the day after, be on the lookout for that. Let's just focus in here. The reason why it's important, besides the timestamp of it, and as we know it's relevant, is that Jack Newton said, "I'll meet y'all at the lake. Can you bring me a hat, please?" And whilst we've already brought up before about the hat, what happened to it? Is it missing? I will be doing a separate video about that as well, like an infantry list asking questions and trying to work it out from there. So be on the lookout for that video as well. There's lots of different ideas going about. But the main point here is the bit about saying, I'll meet y'all at the lake. It's pretty clear cut. It's pretty short, isn't it? Right? And Caleb says, okay, no questioning, no why, no, nothing. And you could be thinking, so why does it really matter? It's so short, the conversation. It's because when you compare it to what Caleb said in his official statement, there is so much more information and detail described within the text conversation at the time of 5:53. Let's compare it now. And if I'm correct in saying, what we see on screen is the point of view of Caleb Newton, who screenshotted it. So it should have been tying in line with what he said on Facebook in a proper post. Yeah, it doesn't quite add up. And it is highlighted in the red text, but I will read most of it out on screen nevertheless. So Caleb said, everyone that I've asked had advised me to social media silence because every comment or piece of info is met with attacks, no matter how valid. But here's mine. We had a plan to fish that morning with me, my son and my dad, supposed to meet at my house at 6:30. My son, Jack, texted me at 5:53. Okay. Saying he'd overslept a bit and he'd meet us at the ramp and to bring him a hat. He couldn't find his, to my knowledge. I don't think he knew Noah was even missing yet. Then about 6:05, I got a call no parent ever wants to get. It was short and hard to understand, so that's about announcing the death. Now, you can say there's multiple contradictions here. We need to focus on one at least today, but let's not forget that what Caleb says here about, I don't think Jack knew about Noah was even missing from the party. Yet at 6:05, I got the call from him about announcing the death and he was upset, etc., etc. That makes no sense, of course, because such as like with Caden Pressey, a witness who was woken up by Jack Newton at 5:15 in the morning, claiming that Noah Presgrove had died. And that obviously was the case, but in terms of the timing of it, it was very early on, considering at around 5:15, were the police called directly? No. At 5:53, close to an hour later, that's when it was officially called in by a stranger, a passerby, right? Not even Noah's best friend bothered to call the police from the looks of it. But Jack was certain in wanting to announce it to the party goers. So you'd rather announce it to party goers only and not the authorities that could actually deal with the situation. Yeah, it seems a bit weird, doesn't it? And with Jack knowing at 5:15 the death of Noah Presgrove, his best friend, and yet Caleb here states it as, I don't think he knew that Noah was missing. It just doesn't add up, does it? Caleb saying, I don't think he knew he was missing, let alone dead, and yet 5:15 from a key witness who was actually there at the party house said that Jack knew at 5:15, and that's why he alerted us about the death. So clearly Caleb doesn't really know his own son. They can't even get their own stories clear unless Jack never explained it to his father about that situation of 5:15. But, you know, it's just contradictions, isn't it? It's like either Caleb is completely out of the loop of things and doesn't know about the 5:15 timestamp of his son knowing about the death of Noah, or that Caleb is trying to act dumb, but not too obvious, maybe. But the main point of today highlighted with the red line, saying at around 6:30, meeting at my house, my son Jack texted me at 5:53 saying he'd overslept a bit and he'd meet us at the ramp and he needed a new hat. Let's compare what's been said here to what's been said, what we see on screen. And I will zoom in if needed, just there. So what's consistent with what Caleb said from recalling this text conversation? Well, about, can you bring me a hat, please? So, yeah, that's consistent. Same thing said there. And I'll meet y'all at the lake. Yeah, that's consistent there. But in terms of anything mentioned about, oh, we'll meet at your house and, oh, sorry, I can't, I overslept. None of that's mentioned here. Nothing's mentioned in a specific text conversation between his son, Jack, and Caleb the father, where Jack mentions at 5:53 about sleeping in. That's not mentioned here. Why is that? What's the reasoning behind it? Why would Caleb state it within the text conversation in his own individual official statement, and yet when you compare that detail given, it does not match up here because it's lacking in detail? While there is some consistency, the main component behind not meeting at the house and going down to the lake because of oversleeping, it's not mentioned here by Jack. Why didn't Jack mention it here? Is it because Caleb Newton has made it up as some kind of alibi to say that, oh, well, Jack was completely unaware of what was going on and that I don't even think he was aware that Noah was missing? Some kind of alibi, a fake time, or adjustments made, possibly. Now, the other way of looking at it, because there's other factors to include, at 5:53, maybe there was a chance that Jack did send a message saying, I woke up late, and then deleted it, and then just resent a message saying, can you bring me a hat, please? Now, I can't quite remember how Facebook works. When it comes to social media platforms and DMs, of course, you can post comments, you can post messages, and you can delete them, but you can't always delete them from the other person's perspective. So if you sent a dodgy message to someone or an accidental one, you can delete it, but it won't delete for the other person's text log, so they will still see it. Some social media platforms allow you to delete it from both sides, and if you do it in time, they will never know that they got that message, with the exception of maybe a notification, right? Does that apply to Facebook? I can't remember now because I've not used it in a while. Messenger, maybe there is a chance you can delete it from both perspectives, possibly. If not, you can clear it up down below. Now, if on the basis that Jack sent the message, then deleted it, and that the message only deletes from Jack's text log and not Caleb's, then it would show up here. So it kind of makes sense. Another way of looking at it, which could be backed up by an alternative point and reasoning behind why Caleb knew about Jack oversleeping, despite it not being mentioned in the text conversation, could be afterwards, if they did go on to do the fishing trip. They're near the water, they're hanging out, they've met up, and then Jack says, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the reason why I decided to meet here at the ramp is because I was running late. I woke up late, 5:53, round that. So that's why I sent the message, I'll meet you at the ramp. And I thought because of the timing, I'd explain once I got here as to why. And because of the timing of waking up, it wouldn't be possible to get to yours in time and it would mess up everything. So I'm sorry about that. Something like that could have happened in that conversation. But if on the basis that the fishing trip just was completely cancelled, called off because of the situation with Noah, maybe at the time of when Caleb made it down to be with his son and talk things over, that might have been when Jack decided to bring it up about waking up late and then saying, that's why I texted you at 5:53 saying we'll meet at the lake instead. And then what Caleb did then was use that statement in his official statement on Facebook, but quoted it from that text conversation log, which is obviously not true because it doesn't show up in the conversation. If it appeared in a conversation face to face down at the time on Monday when Caleb came on down to console with his son to kind of look after him maybe and understand what's going on, it would have been better if Caleb quoted it saying, yes, my son said we'll actually meet at the ramp to do the fishing trip. And in terms of the reasoning behind that, I later found out that when the news did come out about Noah and I made it down to the place, that's when Jack decided to tell me about oversleeping. If it was sourced correctly, it would be more understandable, right? But it wasn't. So it could also make you think that it refers back to the original point that maybe Caleb put a few extra words in Jack's mouth to make him look, a little bit more innocent. I mean, doesn't there seem to be a bit of a reoccurring theme or pattern of, oh, I overslept, oh, I slept early, oh, I keep sleeping here and there and all over the place. What's the theme about sleeping and how true is it? Because a previous point mentioned by Jack was, oh, I slept around 2 in the morning and onwards. And then Caden Pressey says, well, at least 3 in the morning onwards, Jack was still awake. He never went to sleep before. He was still awake. at least up to the time of when Caden was about to go to sleep and Noah was awake and everybody else was awake, right? What about onwards then? Was it ever mentioned? Not from what I'm aware of. So how true is it here if Caleb says that Jack overslept, yet Jack doesn't directly say it himself in that text conversation? Possible contradictions, or just a story's not quite filling up, even though both people proximity to one another, close to one another because of family, yet they don't say the same things, they're not in sync. That's kind of disappointing, isn't it? At the end of the day, I just wanted to share this with you so you could understand that different things have been said from the same person, but not from the same exact source. So like with Caleb Newton, as what we've looked at today. These are like video projects and ideas I wanted to tick off the list. Smaller ones, but they needed to be archived. You can always go forwards, but working backwards at times can help too. Hopefully you found this video of your interest, and of course if you want to catch up on my earlier video today of similar importance but from the perspective of Caden Pressey, and backing up a comment there which I finally found, where you click on the I symbol top right corner of the screen. And if you want to share your thoughts, reactions or questions to this video specifically, leave them down below under this video. You'll also find a pinned comment by me with some additional links if you want to support this channel. We'll leave it there for now. There might be a video later. Be on the lookout for it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.